Natlan's proven to have a very interesting meta so far, with some extremely random faces that you would not expect finally having a place in the game. Today, I thought I'd group them all up here in this video and explain just how they managed to get buffed. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. I'm gonna start off with Candace, particularly because she interests me, as I believe her to be one of Mualani's current best-in-slot teammates as of now. She can hold 4-piece Center City to provide a 12% damage bonus to Mualani, works really nicely thanks to buffing normal attacks by 20% with her burst, and even more if you consider Candace's A4. She has, on the whole, seen a rise in use thanks to Mualani's release. Plus, this is something that's been building up over time. We're all aware that Candace works well in Nilu Bloom as a budget option, but the real kicker is the fact that she also has AoE Arlecchino Vape, which was a very recent new use case for her, so being even more useful in Natlan checks out, as she seems to gain one decent team per region. Cinder City gives her a meaningful 4-piece to hold in both Arla Vape and Mualani teams, though keep in mind that it's useless to put that on her in Nilu teams, since Bloom cores do not benefit from damage percent buffs whatsoever. Transformative reactions, am I right? In any case, this new Natlan set does indeed throw Candace a bone. She does have the slight issue of ruining Mualani's vapes at C6 in teams that don't have a very strong method of maintaining pyro uptime, such as burning. This is because her burst applies more hydro hits with C6, but as I already mentioned, that's circumventable with the use of a burn vape team comp. On the whole, Candace definitely went from a character with no real incentive to use, to slowly gaining 3 formidable use cases over time which make her worth considering. I'm quite frankly baffled that she didn't end up as a 4-star on Mualani's banner, considering how uniquely the pair synergize. Dehya is a famed character at this point, for all the wrong reasons. Everybody and their mother that didn't join the community yesterday knows of the phrase, buff Dehya, because her launch state was abysmal to be fair, especially in comparison to the other Sumeru 5-stars. Being standard banner was not really an excuse either, since so was Tainari, and he was received pretty well back then. He's still a decent spread-based option even now. Natlan really helped her out. You can use 4-piece Intercity on her, which provides her with a source of buffing for the teams that she plays in. Sure, it's only 12% damage bonus, but it still adds a layer of supportiveness onto a character who was previously very confused in terms of kit design. This applies to all of Dehya's teams for the record, not just her new Natlan ones. For example, Ganyu Burn Vape. But of course, I shouldn't fail to mention that she does indeed work with Mualani. While I'd personally say that there's options with better pyro application, it's very refreshing to see Dehya be such a viable contender in a team of a good new limited 5-star. Brings her a good modern use case. You can also use Dehya and Candace in the same team for once. I also believe that she'll gain another good use case in the future with Kanich. Sure, I don't think she'll be beating the likes of Xiangling with him, but I still have faith in their synergy. After all, Bennett is absolutely no cigar with that extremely movement-heavy kit of Kanich's, and Dehya has a wide enough range of her skill to work with him nicely. So congratulations to Dehya, who went from being a complete joke to aging rather decently when it comes to her viable team options. Xinyan is a horrendously garbage character who unironically now gets to see a viable use case as a Mualani shielder and pyro applicator. Sure, it isn't as comfortable as all of the other pyro options that she can use, but the fact that Xinyan, of all characters, is considered viable should be a blessing in of itself. Like, it's Xinyan! Essentially, if you have her C2, build her on an ER sound with a SAC Greatsword or Fav Greatsword, any kind of ER weapon, so that she can burst frequently to apply pyro and refresh her shield. I will say that if you don't have Xinyan C2, then her Mualani synergy is way too jank to recommend, because her regular shield buffing is still bugged to this day. Yet her C2 refreshes Xinyan's shield every time she casts her burst, and you'd be building her on ER anyway so that you can burst for pyro application. So if you have that, then you're all good to go. Plus, Xinyan is on Mualani's banner right now, so there's a chance that you got a few copies of her while wishing. Keeping in trend of most of the other units in this video, Xinyan can also hold 4-piece Intercity. Really solid set for buffing up the team, even if it's only by 12%, since it works nicely for the HP scaling Mualani, who would not benefit from attack-based buffs whatsoever. Good for Xinyan. So yeah, we live in an era where a previously bottom 10 character in this game actually got a use case. However's, you are truly unpredictable, I'll say that. Thoma isn't bad, I actually think the guy's pretty good already, thanks to previously existing Burgeon teams. But he did get buffs in Natlan, so I'd like to talk about them. Mostly, once again, surprise surprise, his Mualani synergy. She's a normal attack-based DPS, so she can easily stack up Thoma's shield to stay well protected, which she really likes. His power application is actually pretty decent for her too. Furthermore, if you choose to build your Thoma on full EM, then his own Burgeon-based contributions to the team are honestly solid. You can still build him on EM main stats while using 4-piece Intercity, by the way, just saying. His C6 also buffs normal attacks, making his constellations a pretty good pickup for the Shark Surfer. I'll add that I also have faith in his synergy with Kanich, since he's a shielder, and Kanich seems to move around a lot as shown in the official gameplay during the 5.0 livestream. So, on the whole, good for Thoma. More use cases for him, very nice. I'd actually say he's one of Mualani's most comfortable synergies to date currently. Chiori is a character who, once again, isn't even that bad, but she's a mediocre unit who got thrown a bone by the new nation, so I'd like to talk about her. First of all, a new craftable sword that she can use. Chiori really needed this, because before, the woman was seriously locked to her R1 signature, and pretty much all of her options were significantly below that with no comparison. Even other 5-star weapons are really lackluster on Chiori in comparison to your signature weapon. A def percent main stat, and a refinable def buff in the weapon's passive. Also, the yap is cut short, and it gets straight to the point in terms of how it works. Chiori can actually be more accessible to free-to-plays now, which I think she really needed, because previously it was an incredibly tall ask to pull for a limited 5-star on their weapon to slot her into a team where the main DPS isn't even all that good in the meta, being Arataki Ito. And if you were pulling Chiori for Navia, yes, C0R0 was still best in slot since other partner Geos did not provide enough to the team to compare with Chiori's sub DPS, but she really was the best only by the process of elimination. Sorry, I had to. Anyways, C1R1 was such an astronomical upgrade to Chiori's feel in the team, yet that's so darn expensive for a 5-star that has an innate anti-synergy with the team to begin with. Since we have Cinder City Kachina now, who beat C0R1 Chiori's performance in a Navia team by a landslide, you're no longer pressured into pulling for Chiori at all, really. And if you do, then it's for Ito teams where she can easily shine on her craftable. I know what you're thinking. Juice, this sounds like a Chiori nerf. She literally got retired from her previous best-in-slot team by a free C0 4-star. So you'd think, but Kachina actually helps Chiori. Kachina's little drill thing counts as a Geo construct, so Chiori and Kachina can both form a very formidable double Geo core together, which can either be used to create an effective DPS Chiori team, where Kachina is buffing Chiori's Geo damage by 40% with Cinder City in an act of buffing her on fielding, or it can be used as a general core to stick onto the end of any other elemental DPS-based team, for Chiori to add a hefty amount of Geo sub DPS onto, and for Kachina to buff up with 4-piece Cinder City. I mean, shoot! Chiori's still gonna get buffed by Kachina even when played in this way, so it's an overall win for everyone. Good on Chiori and her new double Geo core. Might I add that since Kachina is free and gets all of her value right out of the box, and Chiori now has a super viable craftable sword option, she has a really superb way for free-to-plays to play her. Awesome! Once again, I think that Emilie is a good unit, and was a good unit before Natlan came out, but I think that all of us can agree that she was going to get some new team options in Natlan. Essentially, while Nahida may technically be a better buffer if we account for her A1 and has stronger Dendro application on the whole, Nahida in Multiwave is a bit of a menace, since you have to constantly reapply her marks every time you beat some enemies and new ones spawn, and sometimes your rotation simply doesn't agree with that. Emilie, on the other hand, what she lacks in buffing, she makes up for in really solid sub DPS and being far more intuitive to use in Multiwave. Plus, even if she isn't best in slot in Mualani single target, she's still really good there, and will absolutely perform up to a viable standard. Emilie also has no problems of helping keep pyro application up, as her Dendro application is pretty decent on the whole. She really likes Mualani teams of any kind, no matter the pyro that you use, and your final slot can also be whoever for all she cares. This makes her very easy to slot into your Mualani comps no matter who your options are. I'm very happy to see Emilie getting this usability since I predicted that she'd do extremely well with future Natlan characters. Also, the craftable claymore is obviously going to be for Kanich, who is coming out later this patch. Notice how the passive denotes that its buff is conditioned around pyro-related reactions, and Kanich is a Dendro unit. My man's also going to be a Burgeon unit. Perhaps he'll even be able to play well in Raw Burning too, but we'll have to wait and see. It's not rocket science. Emilie is obviously going to be one of his best in-slot teammates in the future. They released Emilie right before Natlan for a reason. Every time they do this, the 5-star unit ends up being really solid in the next region over. So, to all my fellow Kanich simps out there, get your Emilies ready, since we're in for a ride. I also think that Movu Ika's release will benefit Emilie in some way, shape, or form, but how, I do not know just yet. More or less, a gut feeling. I think it's really neat that so many bad characters, or even just characters who felt a little out of place in the game, have at last gotten some kind of concession in Natlan. Yes, they're not all best in slot, but these buffs are undeniably good buffs which make them a considerable option. For example, Shevris is not the best character in the game, but she's still a good character and you can justify choosing her to help you clear your Abyss or Theater. I did mention quite a few units who aren't even all that bad, but they got enough of a buff from Natlan in my opinion to qualify for this video. As for the worst units mentioned, I'm still shocked that Xinyan is usable. Hopefully this video is able to tell you which lackluster units got buffed in Natlan, going from 0 to hero. This has been Juice, signing out, and watch the next Natlan unit buff literally everybody in existence.